For centuries, royal families shaped the world. Wars were fought, dynasties rose and fell, and secrets were buried deep within palace walls. But among these rulers were kings, queens, and emperors who defied norms, loved fearlessly, and left an undeniable mark on history. Many of their stories were erased, rewritten, or whispered only in the darkest corners of history. But the truth? They were here. They ruled. And their love, though forbidden, shaped empires. Today, Rainbow Spotlight uncovers the hidden lives of 5 LGBTQ+ royals who defied the world and left behind legacies of power, passion, and pride. Their stories were meant to be forgotten, but not anymore. Are you ready to uncover the truth? Number 1. King James I, the monarch who loved beyond the crown, powerful, intellectual, unapologetic. King James I of England was a ruler who united crowns, translated the Bible, and, though history tried to erase it, loved men in a way that defied his time. Born in 1567, James inherited the Scottish throne as an infant, and later became the first king to rule both England and Scotland. His reign was marked by intelligence, political strategy, and an unshakable belief in the divine right of kings. But beyond his royal duties, James had a deeply personal life that raised eyebrows in his court. A love that couldn't be hidden. Throughout his reign, James was known for his deep and passionate relationships with male courtiers, most notably Robert Carr and George Villiers. Letters between James and Villiers still exist today, revealing a level of affection that went far beyond friendship. In one letter, James wrote to Villiers, "I desire only to live in this world for your sake. God bless you, my sweet child and wife, and grant that you may ever be a comfort to your dear dad and husband." For a king to refer to another man as his wife and himself as husband was scandalous, even in an era where close male friendships were common. But James made no effort to hide his feelings. Villiers was showered with titles, land, and influence, rising from a minor noble to the Duke of Buckingham, one of the most powerful men in England. Even in public, James displayed an undeniable closeness with Villiers, sparking controversy among his court. Nobles whispered, clergy raised concerns, and political rivals questioned Villiers' rapid rise to power. But James remained firm. His love and devotion to Villiers were non-negotiable, a legacy of power and defiance. James's relationships caused tension at court, with nobles whispering about Villiers' extraordinary influence. Some viewed it as favoritism, others saw it as a threat. But James didn't care. He ruled as he pleased, lived as he pleased, and loved as he pleased. Beyond his personal life, his reign left a lasting impact. He commissioned the King James Bible, one of the most influential texts in history. He worked toward unifying England and Scotland, laying the groundwork for what would become Great Britain. But perhaps his greatest act of defiance was simply being himself, refusing to suppress his affections even in an era when being openly LGBTQ+ was unheard of. James I stands as proof that love exists in all forms, even on the throne. Game-changing moment. James's open affection for Villiers was one of the most public same-sex relationships in European royal history, proving that even kings couldn't always conform to societal norms. Drop a 1 if you think King James I and George Villiers had one of the boldest royal love stories in history. Number 2. Emperor Hadrian, the love that became immortal power, ambition, legacy. As one of Rome's greatest emperors, Hadrian was a ruler of vision, strategy, and immense influence. But beyond politics and conquest, his greatest passion was not war or empire. It was a man named Antinous. Hadrian ruled Rome from 117 to 138 AD, overseeing one of the most prosperous periods in the empire's history. He reinforced borders, built iconic structures, including the famous Hadrian's Wall in Britain, and solidified Rome's cultural dominance. But while his achievements as an emperor were undeniable, it was his love for Antinous that truly left a mark on history. A love that defied time. Antinous was a young Greek man of striking beauty who captured Hadrian's heart. Some say he was simply a favorite courtier. Others believe their bond was something deeper, an unbreakable connection that transcended time and tradition. Unlike many rulers who kept their lovers hidden, Hadrian embraced Antinous publicly, traveling with him across the empire, granting him luxuries and showering him with favor. Their relationship was no secret. Hadrian made sure of that. But in 130 AD, tragedy struck. While traveling along the Nile River, Antinous mysteriously drowned. The circumstances of his death remain unclear. Was it an accident, a ritual sacrifice, or something else entirely? Some believe Antinous gave his life to extend Hadrian's rule through ancient Egyptian magic. Others whisper of palace conspiracies. What is certain is Hadrian's reaction, pure devastation. The mighty emperor, the man who built an empire, was inconsolable. He wept openly, withdrew from political affairs, and plunged into deep mourning. But Hadrian's grief didn't end in silence. He turned it into something eternal. Turning grief into immortality. What Hadrian did next was unprecedented. He refused to let Antinous be forgotten. Instead, he declared him a god. Statues were built in his honor, cities were named after him, and a cult was established in his memory. The worship of Antinous spread across the empire, with temples dedicated to him in Greece, Egypt, and beyond. Historians often debate Hadrian's motivations. Was it pure love, political strategy, or both? But one thing is undeniable. His devotion ensured that Antinous' name would never be lost to history. To this day, statues of Antinous remain some of the most stunning works of ancient art, eternal symbols of a love that refused to be erased. Drop a 2 if you think Emperor Hadrian and Antinous had one of the most legendary royal love stories in history. Number 3. Queen Christina of Sweden, the rebel who rejected the crown and embraced her true self. Brilliant, unconventional, fearless. Queen Christina of Sweden wasn't just another ruler, she was a trailblazer who defied every expectation of what a queen should be. From refusing marriage to embracing masculinity, Christina lived life on her own terms, rewriting the rules of monarchy and gender identity centuries before her time. Born in 1626, Christina was meant to be the perfect queen. Groomed from childhood to rule, she was highly intelligent, well-read, and politically astute. But there was one problem. She had no interest in being a traditional queen. She rejected feminine clothing, preferred to be addressed in masculine terms, and openly surrounded herself with women, forming intense emotional and romantic bonds. A queen unlike any other Christina's court was a place of culture, intellect, and scandal. She adored philosophy, art, and literature, making Sweden a cultural hub of Europe. But while nobles expected her to find a king and secure an heir, she had no such plans. She refused to marry, dismissing every suitor who came her way. When pressured about producing an heir, she responded with blunt defiance. "I am not suited to marriage. I cannot submit to a man." More than just rejecting marriage, Christina's own identity challenged the norms of her time. She dressed in men's clothing, engaged in fencing and hunting, activities deemed unladylike, and preferred intellectual debates over royal duties. Rumors swirled about her relationships with women, particularly her closest companion, Countess Ebaspari, whom she referred to as the darling of my heart. Letters between them reveal a deep affection that went far beyond friendship. Abandoning the throne for freedom. In 1654, in an unprecedented move, Christina did what no monarch was expected to do. She abdicated the throne. Citing exhaustion and dissatisfaction with ruling, she stunned Europe by giving up her crown, cutting her hair short, and leaving Sweden forever. She traveled across Europe, living as she pleased, defying gender norms and continuing to form deep connections with women. Some historians believe she identified as non-binary or gender fluid long before such terms existed. In Rome, she became one of the most famous figures of her time, earning a reputation as the Queen without a country. Drop a 3 if you think Queen Christina was one of the boldest and most unconventional rulers in history. Number 4. King Ludwig II of Bavaria, the dreamer who built castles and loved in secret eccentric, visionary, tragic. King Ludwig II of Bavaria was a ruler unlike any other, a man who lived in dreams, built castles straight out of fairy tales, and carried a love he could never fully express. Though history remembers him for his breathtaking palaces, Ludwig's personal life tells a deeper story, one of loneliness, forbidden love, and a heart that never truly found its place in the world. Born in 1845, Ludwig became king at just 18, stepping into a world of rigid expectations. But politics bored him. Unlike other monarchs obsessed with power and war, Ludwig was a dreamer, fascinated by art, mythology, and beauty. Instead of focusing on military affairs, he poured his heart into architecture, opera, and literature. His greatest passion? The works of composer Richard Wagner. A love that could never be. Ludwig's admiration for Wagner went beyond music. It was deeply personal, intensely emotional, and possibly romantic. His letters to Wagner overflowed with affection, devotion, and longing. He called Wagner his dearest, most beloved friend, and financially supported him despite public outrage. But Wagner was not the only man Ludwig adored. He was known for his close relationships with young noblemen, especially his equerry, Paul von Thurn und Taxis. Their bond was intimate, filled with letters that hinted at an unspoken love. However, Ludwig lived in a time where being openly gay was unthinkable for a king. Torn between his feelings and his royal duty, he struggled in silence. To maintain appearances, he became engaged to his cousin, Duchess Sophie Charlotte. But the engagement was broken off. Officially, he claimed it was due to lack of affection, but many believe he never intended to marry a woman at all. The king who built dreams. If Ludwig couldn't have the love he desired, he poured his heart into something he could control, his castles. He built Neuschwanstein, the now iconic palace that inspired Disney's Cinderella Castle, along with Linderhof and Herrenchiemsee, creating a world where he could escape reality. But his love for beauty and detachment from politics made him unpopular. Nobles saw him as an obsessive recluse, uninterested in ruling. In 1886, he was declared insane and mysteriously found dead in a lake shortly after. To this day, the truth behind his death remains unsolved. A legacy written in stone. Though Ludwig was misunderstood in his time, his castles stand as symbols of a man who dared to dream beyond societal norms. While he may have never been able to openly love, his creations became his ultimate expression. Grand, timeless, and unapologetically romantic. Drop a 4 if you think King Ludwig II was one of history's most fascinating and misunderstood rulers. Number 5. Emperor Elagabalus, the ruler who redefined gender and power. Bold, scandalous, fearless. Emperor Elagabalus wasn't just a Roman ruler. He was a living rebellion against everything the empire thought it knew about gender, love, and power. At just 14 years old, he took the throne, and in the 4 short years of his reign, he shattered norms, shocked Rome, and left behind one of the most controversial legacies in history. Born in 204 AD, Elagabalus wasn't raised as a future emperor. He was a high priest in Syria, devoted to the sun god Elagabal, before being thrust into power by his ambitious family. When he arrived in Rome, the empire expected a strong, disciplined leader. Instead, they got a ruler who lived unapologetically, dressing in women's clothing, taking male lovers, and openly defying gender roles. A gender-bending emperor. Ahead of his time, Elagabalus didn't just have relationships with men. He openly married a male charioteer named Heracles, referring to him as his husband. He surrounded himself with handsome courtiers and was rumored to frequent brothels disguised as a woman. Even more radically, ancient historians claim that he sought out gender-affirming surgery, offering doctors great rewards if they could transform his body to match his identity. He didn't hide his desires, he flaunted them. At banquets, he dressed in silk gowns and jewels, applying elaborate makeup. He preferred to be called a queen rather than an emperor, and some records suggest he even identified as a woman. Rebellion or madness? To the Roman elite, this was not just scandalous, it was dangerous. Rome had seen eccentric rulers before, but none who openly defied the empire's rigid views on masculinity and power. The Senate saw him as a disgrace, and the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's own bodyguards, grew restless. His lavish lifestyle, controversial religious practices, and rejection of Roman traditions made him wildly unpopular. By 18, he had made too many enemies. In 222 AD, his own guards betrayed him, dragging him through the streets and brutally assassinating him. His name was erased from official records, a Roman practice known as damnatio memoriae, as if the empire wanted to pretend he had never existed, a legacy that refused to be erased. Though Rome tried to erase Elagabalus, history never forgot. Today, he is recognized as one of the earliest recorded figures in history to openly challenge gender identity. While ancient writers condemned him as insane, modern historians see him as a ruler who dared to live authentically in a world that refused to understand him. Drop a 5 if you think Emperor Elagabalus was one of the most fearless rulers the world has ever seen. Yeah. From fearless emperors to rebellious queens, these rulers prove that love, identity, and power have never fit into simple categories. Some built legacies in stone, others in scandal. But all of them left behind stories that refuse to be forgotten. History tried to erase them. Society tried to silence them. But today, their truths stand strong. They were here, they ruled, and they lived boldly despite the odds. Who inspired you the most? Drop the number of your favorite royal in the comments below. And if you loved uncovering these hidden LGBTQ+ stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more Untold history. Only on Rainbow Spotlight.